Questions?
I would make the following comment that I never was studying names. I was studying the process of naming.
Okay.
I think that's a very, very important comment uh, from Lou on that perspective. And if I could put an overview over the three presentations, I would say that the entire question of the association of a concept of identity with the concept of name seems to be the underlying thread, which is absent from all of the presentations. That is, the pragmatic notion of an individual acting in the world is difficult to relate to any of the three presentations. And I would just point out that this notion of identity here is crucial, not and is reflected in the three. And from that, I would generate three questions or attempt to generate three distinctive questions. The first would be to Lou, which would be, what is the distinction here between the indicative case, which I presume is for a noun, versus the imperative case, which would arise from logic? For Ram, there's a comparable question. How would you relate human individuality to information, energy, and whatever your third category was? And finally, to Jason, how do you identify those beliefs that have long-range value? And so you give some rules, and they're very vague, and I have no reason to really disagree with most of your rules, but how do you put those into a specific context so that I would know how to act if I was following your rules?
Let me answer your question first and then get out of the way. Um, in what I was talking about, I was concerned with how one being becomes known to another being and how that works in our language. So it's not about names, it's about beings. How do I know you? And how does my being interact with the name that I give to you? So I'm not concerned with the indicative except as it is related to how I am in conversation or in communication with you.
Would you relate your usage here to C.S. Peirce's notion of an index as central to his
Um, um,
logic?
Peirce talks about the the sign, the interpretant, and I am talking about the relationship between the sign and the interpretant.
Uh, I was referring to a different aspect of Peirce's philosophy, uh, his so-called three trichotomies. And I won't try and explain that here, but thank you for your clarification.
Okay.
Ron, your turn. Your microphone is off.
Jerry, can you please repeat your question? I couldn't get the third part of your, what were you trying to say?
Well,
Is it human
yeah,
individuality? Yeah.
yeah. So um, first of all, I would thank you. It's the clearest presentation you've given to us of the several comments you made, and so I really appreciate the clarity you're bringing to your thinking, and
Thank you.
that's very, very positive from my perspective. But the question is, if you start with your notions of having this three of information, energy, and what your third category was.
And information, structure, function. or matter, energy, and transformation. If you can look at it either way.
Well, that's okay. So that's part of the issue here is that you bring to the table a huge number of premises or propositions that all have logical implications or logical connections, possibly even mathematical concerns associated with them. And I don't know how I would sort out from those what I would do in a particular case, how in my identity with my day-to-day problems of living, which of those premises would I pick out and why would I pick out one over the others?
Well, I'm saying that all three are important. That is the key point. It's three different aspects of the same thing, right? So going back to what Lou was saying, if you're looking
with that, I don't think those are the same thing at all. I think they're radically
no, they are not the same thing, but you have to look at it. That the holistic view is you have to look at it from all 3 points of view. The structure meaning the hardware, the function meaning the algorithm, etc. Let's say is calling it as software. But then the question is, if you're building a machine with the hardware and the software, you need to know why does this system do what it is going to do? So that is the architecture or the information behind why you're building this system. So my existence, I have to justify it from all 3 angles. That is the trilogy is that. So if you go back to C.S. Peirce's, he's saying the sign observed and the interpretant. So I replace that with the mind, body, and the intermediate transformer, which is my brain, and the brain produces the signs. But the sign, if it is based on the hardware input, then the real, like what you call the coulombic values, then get converted into pulse trains. And the pulse trains now can be manipulated as the symbols. I need to look at all 3 of them. If you're talking about observer, observed, and the sign, if you're talking about the language, that is a conceptual system. But if you're talking about a behavioral system, then you need to see the sensation, action, and connect it together to the information or the meaning that it conveys. And so what I'm saying is there are 3 viewpoints for every discussion that you're going to have. I have actually, I can show many different things, like consciousness connects to conscious state change to consciously performed activities. Again, it's a trilogy. So it keeps, the same idea repeats.
Yeah, I understand that. I've been a student of Peirce for the last 25 years. All right. And I grasp that. But his dichotomy had 3 different aspects to it. With the first were signs, quali sign, sin sign, and legi sign. The second trilogy was icon, index, and symbol. And my concern about the symbol. The third trilogy was Rema, desi-sign, and then the logical argument. And so the concern I have trying to express is the role of the index as an object and its relationship to the legi sign of things. This is the same reason I posed the question to Lou. But somehow your analogy or metaphor or actual assertion that all of this is due to the machine-like action of my brain or something, I find questionable.
No, if you look at the C.S. Peirce's index, icon, and symbol, those are the 3 evolutionary steps in language. The oldest primitive part is icon, where he says that the language element, which is the index, is connected to the form and meaning. In this case, the animal goes and smells something and immediately assigns it to a certain object. So the index form is a direct attribute of the object, and the recognition of that object happens with this index. The second one is the icon, where you use similarities, right? You look at a curved twig and you can call it the snake, or when you're doing idol worship, you create certain things and you can equate it. So the icon is making a physical object that has a similar attribute to the object and equating the object. The third level, that is the second level of language that we had. The third level is the symbol, where neither the form nor the meaning are directly relating to anything physical, and you are just dealing in a symbolic space. So the key thing I was trying to point out was, if the symbolic manipulation that is happening in the mind, if it don't drill it down to the lower level brain, to what you call as an observable reality, then the symbolic manipulation has no relevance to any reality. So that's why the body and the mind have to work together. You take realistic data, convert it into pulse train, assign it a label, and then you start interpreting it, and that becomes the information. So all three attributes are necessary for a cognitive perceptive process to work, and that is the brain. That's how I'm putting this all together. I'm sorry, I don't know whether it was a long-winded speech.
In your model of the brain, how do symbols arise to begin with?
The symbols are objective phenomena that is accepted between many members of the Homo sapiens species, or your local village, or whatever community that you have. It is the
You mean language
objective.
is given, but I'm concerned with how language gets created.
How language get created? Oh, I think it started out again from the index and the icon way back. People, the nomadic man, he was just like the animal, running around in the forest, smelling things, looking at the leaf shapes, and taking the physical attribute and recognizing the object. That's the index form, right? Then the icon is.
But at some point, for example, people began to count, and they used maybe notches on a stick in order to count. How did that arise, and how is that related to your model of the brain?
How did the counting is somebody created the numeral system, and a lot of people decided to accept it. But if you go to the South American country and the Piraha community, they have only three numbers: 1, 2, and many.
Yeah,
Their entire life is based on those things, right? You don't need a numeral system.
But it seems that on the one hand, you have the brain and many operations in the brain that you're talking about, and then you have the community, and you're talking about this interrelationship, very important interrelationship between what happens in the community of language, the conversational domain, and what happens in the individual brains. That's fine, but I'm just interested in what your story is about it.
No, I'm saying symbolic language is an objective idea that made
You mean
the
objective
individual.
in relation to the. You mean objective in relation to the community of speakers,
it turns
the community
individual
of
brain.
brains, you might say.
Yeah,
Not objective in any other way. It's objective in relation to that social community.
Right. Many beliefs are generated by the subjective mind. When they are accepted by multiple members, it becomes a community-wide acceptable objective phenomenon. And that is where all this symbolic manipulation comes. So that actually, in my brain model, I go from the individual brain to the next level called social brain, which is what Jason calls as a cultural gene. The social brain is where you create norms and values, and the whole, the dictionary of words and all the communication. So that's really the pinnacle of human brain development, is this symbolic manipulation, which made the human species really a social brain. And the beautiful thing about the large language model, since the language is really a closed system following a very rigorous rules and axioms, and that can be implemented in a machine. And the large language model is nothing but another human being knowing all different languages, all different facts, and it's a superhuman. And that is really what's going to take over all of us.
Gary, what is the question for me? If you forget, that's not important.
No, it's the same issue. if you want to put it in the context of the cultural gene, that is, how do I know? You have the if, then, and else. And given a particular situation, a particular category of identity, how do you make the association there with the words such that your other aspects of your theory can be implemented?
Yeah, that I can do another presentation fully devoted to that one. We don't have time here. Here today, it's just just a direct response to Lou's idea about the name or naming.
Yeah,
Well,
except I have to object globally to your response in that you think that I'm interested in names, and I'm not. I'm interested in the process of naming, and so you're going to have to respond all over again.
I think Lou's point here is very important because the question of identity comes that is associated with the notion of name as opposed to the process of naming. And this is what I found mathematically deficient for all three talks. If I want to use model theory and symbolic logics to deal with the identity of the individual, so that yeah, I'll stop there. Other people should have an opportunity to speak. Okay, thank you.
Lori, Eagle, Larry.
Oh, just
Lori sending a paper.
okay. Two simple things. Number one, just thinking about this between people and names. I don't think that way. I don't automatically assign a verbal label of a name to a person. In fact, it's a real weakness of mine not remembering people's names. Instead, I think of how do I say, an interconnected web of facts about that person. That's how I mentally represent people.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
good,
I
good.
can add a label to it, but I find it difficult to do it and not natural. Just pointing out that there are other ways of approaching this information that people actually do. And then just another thing on culture, I just posted a link on a paper I wrote on connecting cultural thinking, all that whole sort of stuff, social interaction with the function of the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. So,
Let me make a comment about that. When I was talking about the indicative shift, it didn't necessarily mean the label of that person. It meant anything that you were associating with that person. And when we do meet someone and know them a bit, we associate lots and lots of things with them, maybe much more than the name. We've had lots of situations where we have students, for example, and we know a lot about each student in the class, but maybe we only learned the names of a few of them because it was a large class. But just being in their presence, we learned a lot and we have associated a lot with them. All of those kinds of associations are are related to this shifting that we do.
I agree it's related. I'm just trying to say that it's possible to do
It's
thinking
not a
without
complete
going directly
story.
to the symbol, to the verbal.
Right, right.
Just one statement. I think there is a hierarchy in the concepts. Name is an extremely high level concept for that is associated with the people. The easiest way for me to remember you is as Lauren, not as somebody wearing a glass or wearing a plaid shirt or whatever it is,
Oh,
right?
who am I?
You have to have a hierarchy. Super concept.
Mhm.
The name is a super concept.
Yep. Fair enough.
Eagle, Gerard, Larry.
Again, at the end of the session, it's my head is, I would not say full, but it's mixing. Maybe a comment on how to use words. Some of the words you have used are synonyms, obviously. And if we talk about what we know about each other, usually that's called a relation. and the more interaction you have, usually the relation is better, more expressed, so it develops. Another term you use is a holistic perspective. I would be very, very careful about that because, first of all, holistic is an absolute statement. That means everything. And
Okay.
saying everything, it's a lot,
Yes.
right? So it's
Uh,
I like the term requisite holism because that means just enough. And if you try to put together a concept, a map, right, a model, it usually has a purpose. It's not, you do not create, we are aware that you do not create an omni perspective map of everything, but you usually say, okay, I would need this particular perspective to do that. So it has a purpose, and you can limit it. For instance, maps as a map where you try to find a route from place A to place B is holistic if you want to go from a place A to place B. So it's requisitely holistic for that. But if you want to create a different map, I think first of all you need to explain the purpose of the map, right? Of the
right.
model you're creating.
Mm-hmm.
And interesting part is, and this is and coming back to Lewis, it's not about the naming, it's about the process of naming. And it's about the process of creating a map. And frankly, you were all talking about structures. Structures are something which you develop so that you can actually use the map. And I think right now we are in an extremely interesting time where we are creating new structures to develop new ways of reasoning about stuff. And this is not the first time it happened. Somebody had to develop the brain. Something had to develop the brain, right? And it was a mind-boggling, strange thing, but it enabled the animals to do things other elements could not. So a very good one. But right now we are creating a new brain, which is not for one individual, but for the society.
Right.
And the process of developing that is fascinating because when we see how that develops, how it connects to the individuals, how it argues about the next level thinking, we can try to imagine how the previous levels of thinking emerged. How we were never asking ourselves how the brain actually emerged, how it was developed, why, who had the blueprints for the brain. And now you can see that we are developing the next level of the brain, and you see the process much clearer. And I find it fascinating. And yeah, thank you again, all three of you, for
Now,
for the upspiriting.
in relation to that, Ram was saying that he thinks of the AI as a kind of superhuman. And maybe not yet, but it relates to what you're saying about it is the development of a larger social brain.
Yeah.
There are
Collective human intelligence. Yeah. Jason, I
there
call
are
that. I'm sorry.
Gerald needs to say something. Gerald is our expert of disagreement. We always make disagreement. But you are currently muted, Gerald. You have to unmute yourself.
Jerry. Yep.
You muted.
Jason, Jason, I think you can unmute all participants,
I
right?
can do that?
I think
How
so.
do I do that?
Right?
Participate.
So the host has, I know you can mute everybody. I presume you can unmute also. I've
Oh,
seen
you cannot.
the-
Oh, you cannot.
Oh no, I said ask to unmute. So he still need to unmute himself.
Yes.
there it is. Yeah,
Very
you-
good.
Yes, now we have you. Okay.
can you repeat?
I don't know whether I am an expert in anything. When I listen to discussions and reports like today, for me the question is, in the context of arranging this type of exchange, there are three different things that are brought together. And so the question for me is, how can I treat what has been brought together as a single unity? So, and then of course there are many different possibilities of doing so. One is, of course, use certain types of experience and say, what is it that he meant and what he meant and what he meant? On the other hand, I have another problem, which is what is it that I would use the three contributions, that which I brought together and wish to treat as a unity, how do they contribute to my thinking? So that's a very different type of problem. And to my thinking, I am brought back to very simple questions, actually. What is the act of bringing together? What is the act of treating as a whole? And what is it that would happen in my brain, if you wish, but in my environment, if I would be challenged to contribute something that is actually making the three contributions into one whole. And that is another question, which is, how is it that in discussions like this, we are able to come up with new thoughts? So there are, let us say, two different things. One is that somebody says, this is what it is, and then somebody else says, this is what it is. And then my task is to think of something in between, something that comes up, and that would contribute to my ability to make use of the three contributions. So at this moment in time, I'm not yet in the position to tell you what came up in my brain.
If you want a brain region, it's the left ventrolateral prefrontal cortex, otherwise known as Broca's area. It does this,
Yes,
this
that's
forming of
very.
theory out of information.
The main problem is that is a different problem from mine. I don't want to call it where it is coming from. I want to actually know how to create the situations where that particular element in my brain is responding. So my question is not what is it? My question is how to do it.
Well, of course,
That's
when
the
we
elephant.
listen to a number of presentations, it takes us a while to get ourselves around them. Or if someone challenges us, like Jason said to me, "Well, why don't you replace names by beliefs?" And and I thought that was really challenging, uh, and I kept thinking about it. And so for me, it was very useful to ask, where are beliefs in all of this? And I'm still thinking about it. I told you a little about what my thoughts were, but I think that the question of where our beliefs meet with our convictions and our own authenticity is a very deep question.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Can I
Great.
say something about?
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, so no, what I was going to say is I think we have to combine my presentation and Jason's in one aspect, which is I was talking about hardware, software, information, or structure, function, information becomes memory. But the interesting thing is I was looking at memory as the bootstrap memory that we are born with, all the primordial reflexes, and everything else is learned. But in addition to what you learn from books and interactions with others, there are also certain memories that are imbibed into you through the culture part of it, where from your household beliefs, household, from your religious school, or whatever it is, all those things. And that is the part I think Jason is calling as culture gene, is what is handed down to you as an edict from the rest of the society. So that is one other form of memory or information that is programmed into you. So that part is what I think of as belief. So the belief
So there are
is the
many
norm that was
beliefs.
drilled into you by your society.
Right. Many,
have-
many
I have a
beliefs.
I already have loose slides. I don't have RAM. I don't have yours. Please send them to me, and I will send to the whole club. How about
Okay.
that? Okay.
Sorry for bringing in neurology again. Ventromedial prefrontal cortex. What's interesting on that with belief is if that part is necessary to actually believe. If that part is damaged, people can talk about beliefs, they can reason about beliefs, but they won't actually believe the belief and apply it. It's the ventromedial prefrontal cortex that adds the emotional, and it turns into a belief into something that imposes itself upon personal behavior.
Reminds us the master of the Kung Fu Panda, who says, "You have to believe."
Yeah.
Okay. You have to believe, Jason. Okay. Thank you very much for coming, and we'll
you.
see you next time. Okay. Mm.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Stop and end the meeting.
Bye.
Bye.